Have you ever wondered just how much impact one individual, with sheer audacity, can make in shaping the course of history? Well, let me introduce you to a story so bizarre, so audacious, that it seems like it could only exist in fiction. This is the tale of an engineer, a small idea, and a giant pretended empire. I promise by the end of this video, you'll look at ingenuity and boldness from a whole new perspective. This is the engineer who faked an empire. Let's set the stage. It's the 19th century, an era of immense transition and geopolitical drama. As colonial races among European powers were at their peak, various regions of the world were being redefined, reshaped, and claimed in the name of imperial ambition. It was a time when every inch of land seemed mapped out by explorations, some real and others entirely forged. In this climate of exploration and expansion, no one suspected an ordinary French engineer to pull off one of the most bizarre deceptions of the time. The man in question was Aurélie Antoine de Tournens, born in 1825 in a small southwestern town in France. With a commendable engineering education, Aurélie didn't seem like someone poised to revolutionize any part of the world. Yet, beneath his disciplined and reserved exterior lay a mind filled to the brim with ambition, some say arrogance, and an imagination so vivid it could rival the greatest of writers. In 1860, Aurélie stumbled upon tantalizing tales of South America's uncharted lands. Specifically, an area known as Patagonia, a sparsely populated region shared by modern-day Chile and Argentina. At this time, Patagonia held a mysterious allure for Europeans. Little was documented about its contrasting terrains, cultural inhabitants, or the whispers of tribes that roamed this rugged expanse. And it was here that Aurélie's engineering mind saw an opportunity, a literal blank slate where he could make his mark. And so, with not much more than a suitcase filled with documents, maps that he may or may not have forged, and rumors of the disjointed relations between indigenous tribes and neighboring governments, Aurélie journeyed halfway across the world to Patagonia. His mission? To crown himself as the ruler of the kingdom of Araucania and Patagonia. Yes, you heard that right. A European engineer decided he would, effectively, create a kingdom out of thin air. His logic was bold, yet surprisingly cunning. At the time, the indigenous Mapuche tribes, known for their fierce resilience, had resisted Spanish colonization for centuries. They were a symbol of freedom and defiance, but they lacked the unification necessary to thrive as a political power. Enter Aurélie. Armed with charisma, some knowledge of engineering, and promises of modernization, he presented himself to the local Mapuche leaders not as a threat, but as a savior. According to records, he claimed that he had been sent by destiny as their rightful king. He even drafted an entire constitution in their honor, uniting their tribes under one rule. While details remain sketchy, local law suggests that Aurélie's curiosity and flair for storytelling earned their cautious support. Now, the curious part, Aurélie didn't have armies, riches, or even noble lineage backing up his claim. Yet, he had one very powerful weapon: perception. He returned to France, proudly declaring that he had been crowned king of Araucania and Patagonia. He presented ornate letters, proclamations, and maps. But these were not genuine artifacts signed by kingdoms, they were his handiwork, strategically designed to look like extraterrestrial endorsements from ancient native tribes. And oddly, the European press believed him, eagerly publishing tales of Aurélie Antoine Voerd of Patagonia, a title he had gleefully granted himself. Of course, it didn't take long for the international community to catch on. Authorities in Chile and Argentina quickly denounced his claims as fraudulent. But here's the thing. Aurélie didn't back down, nor did he admit to deceit. Instead, he doubled down on his title. He defended his kingdom ferociously, calling himself an advocate for the Mapuche people and their cultural sovereignty. Over several years, Aurélie approached various European courts with ridiculous pitches, lobbying for their recognition of his invented empire. While governments dismissed him as a lunatic, his antics did damage perceptions of stability along South America's southern borders. He held diplomatic ceremonies as though he were presiding over a state, printed fake coins to circulate as currency for his imagined kingdom, and even gifted royal titles to French sympathizers in exchange for small donations. A particularly legendary episode occurred when Aureli returned to Patagonia in the mid-1860s, desperate to solidify his rule. This time, local authorities attempted to arrest him under suspicions of espionage. In the confusion of international disputes, indigenous alliances, and Argentina's newly emerging territorial campaigns, the fake king's exile became almost comical. But did he stop there? Not exactly. Even as an exile, Aureli spent decades defending the kingdom of Araucanía and Patagonia legally. At one point, he sued the Chilean and Argentinian governments for invading his sovereign nation. Admittedly, his charisma swayed certain legal circles in France, convincing some wealthy supporters that his ambitions for Patagonia were linked to the broader issues of indigenous independence. While his life ended in 1878, leaving behind a modest tombstone that bore his royal crest, he left behind an enduring tale etched in history. Funnily, descendants of Mapuche warriors from Aureli's time still remember his odd rulership, a symbol intertwining deception with glimmers of advocacy. To this day, locals and historical enthusiasts debate whether he helped unify aspects of the disjointed tribes or merely exploited them for personal fantasies. Fast forward to today. The so-called Kingdom of Araucanía and Patagonia survives solely as a quirky historical anecdote, a reminder of human audacity that borders on performance art. What's even more fascinating? A micro-national movement, albeit tongue-in-cheek, keeps Aureli Antoine's legacy alive. Enthusiasts from various parts of Europe occasionally don Mapuche regalia, inspired by his imaginary kingdom, and gather to celebrate his wild ambitions. It's a strange mix of cultural appreciation and historical satire. So, what's the moral here? Aureli Antoine de Tounens teaches us a critical lesson. Ambition is a double-edged sword. His story reminds us that having the courage to dream big, even audaciously big, can shape history in unexpected ways. Yet Aureli's tale isn't just a story about fraud or ego. It's also a commentary on human resilience, the quest for recognition, and the blurry line between fiction and reality. By the end of his life, Aureli didn't have a palace, a crown dripping in jewels, or even the material markers of success that most think of when crafting historical legacies. Instead, he left a philosophy. Sometimes, the boldness to craft a story can be as impactful as achieving it. And oddly, sometimes pretending to be a king can inspire others to defend a cause larger than themselves. So, what do you think? Was Aureli Antoine simply a fraud who sought to gain power wherever he could? Or was he a misguided visionary who brought the awareness of cultural identities to global frameworks? Drop your thoughts below, and if you were captivated by this untold tale, be sure to like, share, and follow us for more hidden gems from history.